Hi and welcome along to Robbie's Racing Line. This is the show where we talk F1. No Arsenal here, F1. And I'm really looking forward to the start of the F1 season. It kicks off this weekend in Bahrain. Everybody's getting really excited to see what's going to happen. There's going to be Verstappen just sailing off into the sunset again, or can somebody challenge him this season? Really looking forward to it. I could actually have been out there in Bahrain. I got invited, but unfortunately, I said I wasn't going to talk Arsenal, but we do have a game on Monday night, and it's so important. I don't think I would have got back in time, but Bahrain, really looking forward to. Of course, all the testing has been going on over in Bahrain. That testing, by the way, remember, it always used to be in Spain, but now they're doing it in Bahrain. You know, Bahrain paid a little dough to get it all over there, but listen, this is the sport we're in, man. F1, money runs things. So there's been 3 days of testing, of course, at the Bahrain International Circuit. And what have we learned from that testing? Max Verstappen was fastest on day 1. Sainz fastest on day 2. Leclerc fastest on day 3. A lot of drivers, I read where, I think it was it Lewis Hamilton? Well, anyway, I think it was George Russell. George Russell was saying that he feels that still the car to beat is Red Bull, and you know, they're just like way ahead of everybody else, and that worried me a bit when I read that, because I'm like, come on, we want someone to compete. Now, I think the key to that Red Bull car is the aerodynamics on that car. A friend of mine who's involved in F1 was saying, he goes, there was a time last year when I think one of them Red Bulls crashed and they had to lift it up. And when they lifted it up, you could see all kind of little different things underneath their car. And it's the Adrian Newey, you know, aerodynamics of that car that just makes it so much better than every other car on the circuit. But I'm hoping that that's not going to be the huge advantage that they had last year over everybody else, and we get more competitive racing. But the two Ferraris are really fast. Haas completed more laps throughout the 3 days, 441 than anybody else. Second was Ferrari, 416. Third, Red Bull with 391. Fourth, Stake and Aston Martin, 379 for both of those. But what do we read into that? Because it can be that, you know, somebody doesn't have to do as much testing as the others because they're kind of happy with how the car's going. Williams completed the least amount of laps, 299, and they also suffered with a fuel pump and drive shaft failure, both on the first day of running, so that's not a good start there for Williams. And fuel-related issues hampered McLaren's running on day 2, while rumours suggest that Alpine are really struggling with their new car. The car is rumoured to be overweight and slow on a one-lap pace, and that's not good. You've got an all-new concept and you're starting off like that, so not great at all. Now, what are we going to get in Bahrain? That's going to be the interesting thing. I mean, who are the drivers and teams that we need to watch out for? Well, the obvious one, of course, is Red Bull. Max Verstappen. Can anybody stop him? Can he replicate the season that he had last year? Personally, looking at things at the moment, looking at the way he's just relaxed and cool about everything, the way that Red Bull, apart from the little scandals that are going on in the background, they seem so relaxed. It looks like they've got a feeling that they can replicate it, but who's going to be able to challenge them? Will Ferrari be able to step up? I was really confident last year that Ferrari were going to do something. Remember, they started well and they looked dangerous, but then just error after error and mistakes, and I don't know, there was just something wrong at Ferrari last year that they just did not get things right. Under new leadership this season, can they? That's one thing we're going to find out. But what about Mercedes? Can they mount a challenge? Can Lewis Hamilton, in his last season for Mercedes, do anything to stop Max Verstappen? Remember last year, he didn't even win a single race. That is how dominant Verstappen was. I've been asked there to get my pole predictions and positions. Pole, listen, I have to only go by last year. It was Max Verstappen who won it. I think you're going to have a 1-2 Red Bull. Yeah, maybe a Ferrari on there. I think 1-2 Red Bull, maybe, or maybe, you never know. You never know. Maybe a Ferrari could get in a second, but I think we're looking at Red Bull dominating this. And driver who won't perform. Well, I'll tell you what, right? I'm not going to pick a single driver, but what I'm going to say is a driver who has to perform this season. I feel there's a lot of pressure on him, and that's Lewis Hamilton. It's his last season at Mercedes. He's going to want to go out on a high. He's not going to want to go out. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to win anything, but he'll want to win a race. I mean, he must have been hurt last season, not winning a single race. And that car they had last year was dreadful. They've made improvements on it. I think the pressure is on Lewis Hamilton to at least, come away with a race win this season before he goes over to Ferrari. All right, let's get into your questions that you've asked me. This is time for the Robbie's Racing Line Q&A. And thank you very much for the questions that you sent in, and keep them coming in. I'll try and answer as many of them as possible. First one comes from Sam. He says, which driver are you most excited to watch this season? You know what? It's Lewis Hamilton. I've spoken a lot about him already. I just want to see, can he win a race? Can he do anything this season? Last season in Mercedes, before he goes to Ferrari, unexpected the fact that he's going to Ferrari. So what are you going to leave Mercedes with? What are you going to do this season? I'm excited to see what he's going to do, because he must be stung after last season. Yeah, I mean, when you're used to winning race after race and you don't win a single race, he must be stung. So excited to see what he'll do this season. Do I think, this is from Jack, he says, do you think any teams will be able to challenge Red Bull this season? Unfortunately, I'm going to be honest, innit? I'm going to tell you the truth, right? I'm trying to will teams to challenge them. But I don't know, they just look confident. And as I said earlier, the aerodynamic, they just got that advantage over everybody because of that Adrian Newey. I think he's the key to that team. He's the master of aerodynamics. And I feel until he leaves, they're always going to have something extra. So the answer is no. Alice says, how will drivers adapt to the return of the Chinese GP in April? First Chinese GP since 2019 due to COVID. Well, already drivers have been moaning about the amount of races that are taking place, but this one comes fairly early in the season. I'm sure they'll all embrace it. They'll all be glad to get back there. But there's a lot of races this season. I think later on in the season is when it's really going to catch up on a lot of the teams. Tom says, do you think the calendar switch up will have an impact on the drivers' performances this year? Japan in April, Baku in September. May do, because different tracks have different impacts on the cars. You know what I mean? Cars perform better on different tracks. It depends how far ahead Max Verstappen is by then. Is if anyone can eke any sort of advantage out of it. But yeah, it possibly could. Henry says, which circuit are you looking forward to most this season? Well, it's got to be Silverstone. No, I went last year. I really enjoyed it when I was there, and always look forward to the British Grand Prix. Yeah, Silverstone. I'm really looking forward to see. Can we have one of our British drivers winning that? Lando Norris, George Russell, Lewis. So that's always look forward to Silverstone. What are your predictions for the Drivers' Championship? Verstappen in first. It's hard to predict because you don't really know what these cars are going to do yet. But Verstappen in first, Checo second. He always lets you down, doesn't he? He can't be as bad this season, can he? Leclerc, let me go Leclerc. He's got to step up as well. He needs to step up this season. I'm forgetting about him, right? Leclerc needs to step up this season. Second, and I want to make it something different, man. I didn't put Hamilton in third, but I'm not sure until I see what happens with these cars. Charlie says, which team do you think has the best driver lineup this season? I'm going to go for Ferrari. I like their, Leclerc, Sainz, two great drivers. This is actually, Sainz unlucky, isn't it? I mean, that Hamilton's going there. But they're two really, really good drivers. If they can get that car more reliable this season, you never know. They could both have a good season. But when I look at the drivers in all the various teams, the combinations, they're the two that are so evenly matched. Either of those could be the main driver of the team. There's a lot of other teams where you've got your obvious main driver. The obvious main driver, even though George Russell's good, but the obvious main driver for Mercedes is Hamilton. The obvious main driver for Red Bull is Verstappen. Alonso's the main driver at Aston Martin. So, but in that team, Sainz or Leclerc, could be either of them. So I think their lineup is good. Just got to get their car reliable. Can any of the teams cause an upset like Aston Martin last season? Ferrari, if you class it as an upset, it shouldn't be an upset because, you know, Ferrari, basically, if you use a football analogy, they're like the Man United or the Real Madrid of, you know, well, actually, no, I'll class them more as a Man United because they've just been in the doldrums for so long. But they're like the Man United, how Man United are in football, you know, being the biggest and the best brand, the most well-known brand. That's what Ferrari are, but they've just not delivered over the years. But new leadership there, could that be the game changer? Who knows? And also, I'm very intrigued to know why Lewis Hamilton's chosen to go to them. Does he know that their car's made big improvements this season, or is that coming in next season? It's intriguing that he's chose to go to them. So maybe they have got a little surprise waiting. Lila says, which team do you believe has made the most progress during pre-season testing? Do you know what, Lila? It's hard to tell because we don't know what exactly these cars have done in pre-season. They turn their cars down. You know, you've got some of them, or they'll know the car's really, really good, but they'll turn it down. They don't want to give anything away. So I really think it's really hard in testing to see who's made the most progress, but just going off of some of the stats that we've seen, let's go Ferrari, although they sort of, as I said, did a similar thing last year where they looked like they were going to be good and they weren't, or they weren't as good as they should have been. Cooper says, which driver do you think will perform in Bahrain? Max. Diana says, what driver do you think could cause an upset in Bahrain? Surprise pole, podium, victory? Oh, let me go Alonso. He's always capable of springing a little surprise. He started off last season really, really well. Could he come with something? Again, hard to tell with these cars, but I'll go Alonso. Jack says, which driver do you think performed the best in testing? Max. And do you think, this was Oliver, he says, do you think any of the teams were hiding their true pace in testing? Red Bull 5th and 6th fastest, quiet McLaren testing. Do I think they were hiding their true pace in testing? Absolutely. They all do it. They all try and get you into this false sense of security that their cars are a load of rubbish. And then when they get out on the track, Red Bull do it all the time. Mercedes used to do it a lot. When they get out on the track now, turn it all up, blaze away. I think there's a lot of brinkmanship that goes on in these testing. And basically, we have to remember what the word is. They're testing the car out. They would have done loads of stuff on simulators as well. It's hard to tell at this stage what the true pace of those cars are. For instance, I think that Red Bull is a lot faster than what they're showing us. But what I'm hoping is that that's true of a lot of the other cars on the circuit as well. And then we get a good season. We get, you know, we don't want another season, like I said, and I said it last week, it's not Red Bull's fault, but we don't want another season where they just run away with it all. That's not good for Formula One. We want a competitive season. The car that I'm looking to, hoping that they're going to be competitive, is Ferrari. I think, you know, if they can get that car more reliable, they might be in with a shout. Mercedes, I really don't know. After the season that they had last year, have they been able to, you know, close that gap enough to get close to Red Bull? Who knows? Maybe McLaren. Again, you know, I mean, there was some races last year that had great pace. Have they got it get together enough for this season? It's going to be really, really interesting. Certainly, that first race in Bahrain is going to be a good barometer for where we are going to be this season. Those Red Bulls just fly away into the sunset. it's not good for the season. So let's hope we have a good first race in Bahrain. Really, really looking forward to it. And of course, you can catch me next week here on Robbie's Racing Line. And you know what? And I keep reiterating it. No disrespect to Red Bull because they're a fantastic team. They're the best team. But I would love to see somebody mix it up and get in and amongst it in this first race to really get us excited for the rest of the season. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe here, and we'll be back next week.